family, nation, all under heaven. For millennia, the ancients lived in harmony, a peace made possible by responsibility and connection to a greater humanity. Nothing like this ever happened. 家国天下 is just a political vision of what an ideal world would be like, encompassing geography and morality, subjectivity and politics. In this framework of family, nation, all under heaven, there was no concept of self. The family is the smallest unit. For example, the Chaoshan phrase 家己人 or 家己人 in Mandarin exemplifies this. This traditional value system, however, has been increasingly eroded and challenged, and it even collapsed during the late Qing dynasty. The Qing government and intellectual class both tried to make China a modern nation state by embracing Western-style modernity. But even in China today, where it might be offensive to say 家己人 instead of 自己人, 鸡犬升天 is common. Metaphorically, the proverb chicken and dogs turn immortal means that whenever one gets a government job, all his buddies get them too. 国. In ancient China, the concept of nation was different from our concept of nation-state. Neither nationalism nor shared national identity existed, and no government represented the will of the people over a sovereign territory. The Chinese were feudal, so their territories were governed by reciprocity. Rulers were expected to be righteous, and the people were expected to show fealty. Heaven gives its mandate to a virtuous ruler who must be just and capable. When the ruler gets overthrown, it's a sign that they have lost the mandate. Throughout Chinese history, this concept has been used to legitimize rebellions and install new emperors. The doctrine of the mandate of heaven predates Taoism, which was founded during the Qin dynasty, Buddhism, which was introduced to China during the Han dynasty, and Confucianism, which was founded during the Spring and Autumn period. It was first used by King Wu of Zhou, who rebelled against the Shang dynasty and founded the Zhou dynasty. King Wu and his family invoked the mandate of heaven to legitimize his revolt because he thought the Shang dynasty no longer served the people's interests, and therefore it had forfeited the mandate between the monarchy and the Shangti, the god of law, order and justice. The mandate of heaven was thus defined as the God's blessing on a just ruler and ruled by divine mandate. When the government no longer served the will of the gods, that government would be overthrown. Moreover, there could only be one legitimate ruler of China, and his rule had to be legitimized by his proper conduct as a steward of the lands entrusted to him by heaven. The rule could be passed on from father to son, as long as the child had the right virtues. The mandate would later be manipulated by various rulers to give succession to unworthy children. 天下, all under heaven, is a Chinese term for a historical cultural concept that denotes either the entire geographical world or the metaphysical realm of mortals, and later became associated with political sovereignty. It formed the basis of a worldview that first began with the Chinese court, next expanded outward to major and minor officials, then common subjects, after that tributary states, and finally ending with fringe barbarians. This worldview probably started during the Shang dynasty, an era of tribal alliances. The kings of each nation, or guo, pledged fealty to the Son of Heaven, who granted them lordship over their territories. The Zhou kingdom, for example, was a tribute nation of the Shang dynasty. Qiao Dai, an emperor's reign is called Qiao. Here, dynasty means government of state administration, and it has the concept of one regime ruling the world at present. It is different from guo, which the ancient Chinese regards as a vassal state or tribute nation. Dai is a convenient way to divide history. Ancient officials used the term dynasty to distinguish historical periods of a certain regime. In the concept of family and 天下, The monarch family is the dominant one, with change of dynasty meaning changing the ruling family. So the first three kings of the state of Zhou are not counted as part of the Zhou dynasty. The Zhou dynasty started with King Wu, who conquered Shang and established the Zhou dynasty. Huaxia. Huaxia is a historical concept. It came from the recognition of a common cultural ancestry and represented the Chinese nation. It's the name of the ancient Central Plains region. The term Huaren for a Chinese person is an abbreviation of Huaxia with Ren or person.
I think a lot of us in this Friday conversation, we are very interested in history. So what CS talk about the Zhou dynasty succeeding from the Shang dynasty. Interesting fact, during the Shang and the Zhou dynasty, the term Huang actually is with three horizontal strokes and one vertical stroke. So they were known as king of kingdoms. So the country of China was still very fragmented. But it was the dynasty after Zhou, the Qing dynasty, QIN, which first became the real emperor of China because he controlled all of China, which is called Tianxia. And I was watching this on Netflix the other day. So the history of the Qing Shi Wang, or the first emperor of China, is super interesting because they were a small tribe also when it started, but they fought and they rebelled against everybody. And finally, after I think 4 generations, the fourth generation was called Ying Zhen. Ying Zhen became the first emperor of China, but that was after conquering all the neighboring states like Wu, like Han, all those dynasties.